This lesson is part of our Social Studies Unit 2, Three Worlds Meet. In this lesson, we will be learning more about the Eastern Woodland Native Americans. The Native Americans of the Eastern Woodland region will be among the first people in North America to be impacted by the interactions of the Europeans, Africans, and Native Americans. Our learning target for this lesson is to describe the lifestyle of the Eastern Woodland Native Americans, including the family structure and the governmental structure. We will also be able to explain the role of trade among the tribes of this region and describe the beliefs these tribes had about the land use and ownership. We learned that the Eastern Woodland Native Americans lived across a large area of North America, shown in green on this map. The arrow pointing to the area of land that is now Michigan shows us that the Native Americans of Michigan were part of this culture group. What do you remember about these people, also known as the Three Fires? The thinking map below shows some things you may have learned. Do you recall the names of the three tribes? Yes, the Ojibwa or Chippewa, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. Do you remember the types of homes they lived in? They lived in bark-covered homes called wigwams. You may also recall that some of the people of these tribes were hunters, others were traders, and others were farmers. As you can see from the map, the Eastern Woodland region is very large and has many different climates and geographic features. Therefore, although the cultures of the regions have a lot in common, they also have a lot of differences. Because the Eastern Woodland region is so large, it is often divided into two subregions, a Northeast region and a Southeast region. Similarities in the two subregions were that both had lots of forests, lakes, and rivers, and these impacted the housing, food, and clothing of the people. Another similarity is that people in both regions lived mostly in permanent villages. The differences were affected largely by different climates, which led to different types of homes and different food due to the length of the growing season. They also had different language families. An important feature of the Eastern Woodland tribes was that they were great traders. Each group used the resources around them to make what they needed. To get things they didn't have the resources to make, they traded with other tribes. For example, people in good farming areas traded crops for meat and furs. Another example is traders from areas with birch trees trading birch bark containers for things made of copper, which was not available in their area. The many rivers in this region helped create a strong trade system. Let's take a look at how the Eastern Woodland tribes organized their villages. Clans were large family groups and were an important part of village life. Although there were differences among tribes, we can make some generalizations. Within a tribe, men and women had different roles, but both were viewed as making valuable contributions. Women and men both had positions of power within the village. The people of the village shared houses and property, and the land was communally owned, which means shared by all for common use. Villages and tribal nations had boundaries for hunting and farming, but no one owned the land. While each tribe had its own chieftain and governed itself, the Eastern Woodland tribal nations organized a great council to make decisions about matters that concerned all tribes. The great councils met at least once a year to resolve disagreements, discuss relations with other nations, and sometimes plan warfare. The great councils gave the tribal nations a way to solve problems and also helped them unite against common enemies. Being part of the Great Council still allowed each nation to retain control over their own territory. Let's review our learning targets. The people of the Eastern Woodland tribes were organized into clans, and men and women both had important roles. Each tribe governed itself, but also formed confederations with other tribes. The land was communally owned, meaning it was for everyone, and no one truly owned it. Houses and other property were shared among the tribe, and tribes traded for items made from resources not available in their area. Rivers were important in making this trade possible. Let's practice before you take a quiz. True or false? The main reason people in this region traded was that they wanted to get goods that could not be found or made from the resources they had. That is true. Number 2, true or false? The eastern woodland Native Americans believed land was something to be owned and cared for only by chiefs and other leaders. That is false. The eastern woodland Native Americans believed land should be communally used and not truly owned by anyone. Number 3, true or false? Each tribe governed itself, but the Great Council met to resolve issues that involved all of the tribes. That is true. Number 4, true or false? Women had important roles and were respected within the villages. That is also true. And number 5, true or false? Within a village, people shared houses and property with others in the village. That is true as well. Click next to take the quiz.